Smile, a creepy horror movie about a girl who gets possessed by a curse and leading to visions and loss of reality. I've heard some pretty good things about this movie, so I'm here to find out. Is the hype worth it, or is this just a fake smile? Hello, my fellow freaks. It is I, Frankie, your local horror enthusiast, and today we're going to be talking about the plot of Smile, as well as me giving my own personal review on it. Shout out to Gilmoon for suggesting this movie. If you have any thoughts you'd like to share, or you have something in the horror genre you want me to review, tell me in the comments below. And now, let's get our spook on. This is your usual spoiler and trigger warning. We will be diving into the plot, and the plot does contain heavy themes of suicide, self-harm, mental issues, trauma, and harm to animals. If that upsets you in any way, I highly suggest you get off the video. But if you're still around, let's get to it. The movie begins and we're immediately hit with a woman laying in bed, the camera moving around a room, to which she hasn't looked like she's cleaned it in a hot second. Girl, I get it. Sometimes depression's just like that. We then have the camera pan to a kid before it was revealed to all be a dream. This is where we meet our main character, Dr. Rose Carter. She's a therapist at the psychiatric hospital. She's brought in to talk to someone named Carl, who's currently talking to themselves. It's always someone talking to themselves. It's just not realistic. Ain't that right, Kevin? Things seem to be going good so far, so now it's time to get some creepy shit on. Rose is called to talk to Laura, who is currently having a mental breakdown. They talk a bit, and Laura reveals she's been seeing things that no one else can see, and that they look like people, but just aren't. They can basically look like anyone, and it smiles at her. Ha! Title drop! Roll credits! Side note, I'm really loving the camera work so far. The close-ups just really make it seem unsettling, and I personally enjoy that. Laura then seems to see whatever she's seeing with Rose, and Rose tries to call for help, but she turns around, sees Laura standing there with a big old creepy grin, and proceeds to slit her throat in a scene that I don't think I can show, because Daddy YouTube will get upset with me. Obviously, Rose isn't doing so hot, and she's currently talking to two cops, and basically Rose guesses that Laura was suffering from some kind of PTSD. Also, personal side note, there's a really good scene in there with, like, Laura's corpse, and you don't even see the body, but you just see the blood on the blanket, and that imagery plus the music, the team did a really good job on that one. Rose gets home, and we see that she has a cat. I swear to God, if anything happens to the cat... While in the kitchen, Rose ends up seeing Laura's creepy smiling face in the darkness, and she's only called out when her fiancé Trevor calls out to her. Rose unloads about him, about everything that's going on, and they have some banter before they go out to dinner with her sister Holly and her husband. Holly's complaining about how Rose has to work Saturday, and she can't attend her nephew's birthday party. And we also learn that there is a house that basically everybody but Rose wants to sell, and it's really heavily implied that this is the house they grew up in. So yeah, Rose isn't too keen on it, and she kind of lashes out. Next day at work, Rose is, like, zoning out hard. Like, I'm talking me whenever I have to remember anything in class hard. She goes off, asks for some info about an incident that Laura was involved in, and she ends up talking to the cop who was there yesterday, Joel, and oh my God, are they exes? And the plot thickens. Rose checks out the files that Laura was involved in and found out that her professor basically killed himself in front of her while smiling at Laura. Rose then gets a call from Holly apologizing for freaking out yesterday, and while doing everything, like, she starts seeing people smiling at her. Eventually we run into Carl again, and Carl's smiling at her and then starts yelling, "You're gonna die." And Rose starts screaming, and she's like, "Yo, he's aggressive." But turns out, he was just sleeping. Man wasn't doing anything. Rose gets called in by her boss, Morgan, and he tells her, "Yo, take a week off, take a break." I'm sorry, but, like, where does she work? Kind of want to work here. Rose stops by a store to get a toy train for her nephew's party, wraps it up. Trevor's working late, so it's just her. While enjoying some wine, she hears her alarm go off, then gets a call from the security company like, "Yo, someone broke in." And apparently, the back door was open. Turns out, though, the first call was a hallucination when she gets called again. And this time, the cops pull up, trying to see, like, "Yo, there's no one in the house. You good?" Trevor comes home while the cops are there, and obviously like, "Yo, why are the cops here?" She tries to explain, but, Rose tries to feed the cat, but she can't find him. I swear to God, if anything happens to the cat, Rose wakes up in the middle of the night and listens to the audio that was somehow taken the day Laura killed herself before Rose is jump scared. First jump scare, and it kind of got me off guard. Good job, movie. Rose ends up going to a therapist, talks with that, gets all dressed up, and she ends up going to her nephew's party. But while he's unwrapping gifts, what she thought would be a toy train is the corpse of her cat. God damn it! Rose ends up basically having a mental breakdown, sees Laura smiling at her, and falls into a glass table, thus going to the hospital. Her boss comes in to check on her, say, yo, you good? Trevor hears about what happened from Holly, and Rose tries to talk to him, but Trevor pretty much just thinks she's insane. Can there ever just be one horror movie, just one, where the partner does not think that the main character is insane? Trevor suggests that Rose's mental illness possibly be genetic, mentioning her mom. Yeah, there's probably no likely good outcome for these two. Rose goes back and researches the case, and the next day she goes to the professor who killed himself's house to talk to his widow. And she basically tells her everything that's happening, the ramblings, the visions, everything, and it's similar to what Rose is experiencing and what she heard from Laura. And eventually the widow takes her down to her husband's study, basically, and shows all those disturbing pictures of what he was basically seeing. But eventually, Rose kind of reveals herself not really being a reporter, and the widow ends up kicking her out. Quick side note for me, during the scene, there's a image of the dead body, and while I never thought I'd be saying this about a dead body, the makeup team really outdid themselves with that one. Rose goes home, and bam, there's an intervention with her therapist and Trevor. I know it's technically the right thing, but you usually don't want to. There's a fight, and Rose leaves, going over to Holly's, who's still quite upset about the dead cat present. Holly cries about leaving Rose alone and saying that leaving them with their mother fucked her up, and claims that her mom going insane and killing herself is the reason Rose is going through all this. Cue more fighting. Holly ends up leaving Rose basically just on her front porch. While in her car, Holly goes out again and knocks on the door. But surprise! Neck bends upside down while she's smiling. But a shock again, and it's another hallucination. Next scene, Rose is eating outside a diner. And gets a call up from Mr. X-Man Joel, who reveals that the cases he found link up to the cases that she was talking about. Revealing that one dude killed a woman that followed the pattern, but basically passed it on by killing someone else and having someone else witness it. Rose goes with Joel to find him and ends up talking with the dude in jail, asking him what was going on before he killed someone. He talks about knowing what it was and reveals that he tried to figure out what it was and found a similar case where a man in Brazil killed his wife. And that's basically what he did. He reveals that it spread through trauma, and to get rid of it, they needed to kill someone with a witness. Rose ends up accidentally revealing she has it, and Mr. Prisoner Man thinks, oh, you're here to give that to me? Heck not, and has an absolute freak out. Rose goes home and basically isolates herself, obsessing over the connections of this curse. At one point, the therapist comes over for a surprise house visit. Rose tries to convince the therapist, it's all good. Then Rose gets a call, and what do you know? It's Miss Therapist, and the therapist in front of her smiles. Yep, turns out another hallucination. She runs towards her and grabs her.
Did the
Rose
demon
ends up going
have
to work
to
and
drool?
thinks she kills Carl in front of Morgan, but she doesn't, and she wakes up in her car, revealing a dream once again. Morgan comes out to check on her because she's not supposed to be there, and she ends up just speeding out of there. She drives all the way down to her mom's house. Joel calls up, tries to talk to her, but obviously that doesn't go anywhere. The house looks like it hasn't been cleaned or lived in a good 3 or 4 centuries at this point. Heading to the door, once opened, is revealed to be a young girl, the same one from the intro. The whole room is the same one from the intro! Wait... The woman in bed, who we now know is Rose's mother, is overdosing on something, asking Rose to call for help, but she runs away. Now Rose ends up in the same room, completely as an adult, then going to the garage and basically locking herself in the house, closing the blinds, and only having a oil lamp for light. Rose goes back to the room, which you should never do in a horror movie, by the way, guys. And inside the room is her mom, basically just hunched over the bed, asking Rose to come here. And she starts approaching her, basically apologizing. But Rose lets out all the feelings, all the trauma, all the pain she's been holding in since she was 10. But of course, since Rose can't have anything nice, Mama smiles, and she ends up following her to the door. And the demon jump scares her. And it's basically telling Rose she can't escape from full mind. She's fully, choking Rose out. And Rose ends up fighting back to basically burn it. Nice to see Fall Out Boy is lighted up with still influencing people even in 2021. The demon burns along with the house, and Rose thinks she defeats it, and she goes home, but instead of going to, her fiancé or anyone else, she goes to Joel's place. Rose apologizes, basically for being selfish, and has to stay the night, but surprise, the demon's back! Which is metal as heck. You gotta love a demon who puts on a show. And climbs into Rose's mouth. We listen and we don't judge. Unless you're a trauma demon crawling into your victim's mouth. Then we judge a bit. Joel comes in and finds her pouring gas on herself. She turns to him with a big old creepy grin and sets herself on fire, thus transferring the demon to its next victim. And that was Smile, and honestly, I rather enjoyed it. Some parts can feel kind of drawn out, I will give it against that, but I really do like the atmosphere the movie made. The general feeling of just slowly being boxed in with this creature and not knowing what was real and what was fake. I really enjoyed that aspect. I enjoyed some of the scares, and honestly, I know some of them are just there for shock value, but sometimes shock value kind of hits. Of course, not everything's perfect. I feel like a lot of it could have been shortened a bit, and we didn't really need the scene of Rose killing Carl. But other than that, it was a pretty good movie. So in the end, I'm going to give this movie 7 out of 10 spiders. But as usual, those are my own thoughts. I'd love to hear yours in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching if you watched this far. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe to see more of me. And I will see you next time. Horror enthusiasts out!